Hey folks, welcome to Moonshift Audio. So the other day I was looking for an old track I'd made and I came across a folder of old music that I'd made, I reckon, about 20 years ago. I pulled a couple of tracks up and it was actually really interesting to hear what I'd been doing with my production and particularly with my mixing all that time ago. This was quite early in my mixing journey and there was so much that I would do differently now from a quick playthrough that I decided before I listened to the track again or before I went any further I was going to put together this video where I react to the track and I give my thoughts on how the mix could be improved. If you'd be interested in a quick feedback video like this one, I occasionally offer free mix critiques to the people on my mailing list, but I'm also going to put a link down in the description of this video, so if you want you can send me a link to your track and I'll give you my thoughts. For now, let's take a listen to what I was doing 20 years ago. Okay, so here we are. This is my track from I think about 19 years ago. I had a very quick listen before I opened up this project, but I haven't heard it all the way through, and a few things have started to come back to me from that, so let's just play it and see what we got. Like the piano sound, not quite sure about the very top end of it. Sounds a little bit sort of cheap. So there's something quite interesting there. Like, I like what I'm doing with the delay on that piano, and I've obviously got some kind of control over that delay because the piano is panned to the left and the delay is panned slightly to the right. And what I think would have been nice is to do a bit of work on that delay EQ wise, just to kind of take the top end off. It would help it just sit a little bit further back into the mix. Like the phaser on those hi-hats. So I can actually remember now. So back when I was making this, I was using Reason for all the kind of electronic elements. And we didn't have Splice. It was quite hard to get hold of sample packs. Everything had to come on CDs, mostly, I feel like you would have got a lot of sounds from back then. And I remember raiding, so all copies of Windows XP came with a pre-installed sort of pinball game, which was pretty good fun. But I managed to get into the kind of resources folder and dig out all the little glitchy sound effects that were used by that game, and I loaded them into a drum machine in Reason, and that's what all those glitch sounds are, and I think they work quite well. Also, if you never used Windows XP, what an operating system, you're missing out. That's possibly the geekiest thing I think I've ever said. Maybe you had to be there. It was good. Okay, so I've got the vocal coming in now, and yeah, there's definitely some problems here. So I can remember recording this in an untreated bedroom. I didn't have a mic stand. I had an SM58 and I just did it handheld. So yeah, there's a lot of low end in that, which I definitely could have treated with EQ, but I didn't. Well, I certainly didn't do a very good job if I did. It's double tracked, which is fine. They're quite loosely double tracked, which isn't necessarily an issue, but I would definitely say there's an issue in that the track to the right is way louder than the one on the left, so it sounds kind of unbalanced, and I know that that wasn't intentional, so that would be something I'd look to clean up. If we just play it again. There's also quite a boomy kind of reverb on those Vox, which isn't great. Like, I think I mean, I know I definitely wouldn't have been doing things like EQing my reverb returns. I may not have even been using reverb returns when I made this. So if I was to give old me some advice, I would say use a send effect for that reverb and definitely roll off some of the bass there. And now it's all around you. So I like the bass line, and the bass tone's okay. I like that resonant top, that kind of filter swept top end, but the low end of the bass is perhaps a little bit overpowering. It's a bit boomy. I think my advice to myself would probably be duplicate that part, use a separate synth to make the top end and the low end, and then you could kind of have a lot more control over what's going on there. Drums wise, I quite like the tone of the drums, but there's no punch there at all. I feel like, we've got this lead in. It's going to drop. And then that kick's just got no transient to it. There's no impact. There's no low end. It's just all mud. It's really boxy. Okay, so now there's a lot of fuzz on those drums. And I like the tone. I like the tone of the drums, but I think what they're really desperately missing is some punch and impact. So I think perhaps layering up an undistorted version of that kick drum in particular and kind of putting that underneath so that you can get just some of that kind of like gutsy kick. It's all boxiness, which actually, like, the boxy frequencies in this are working. I think I wouldn't want to scoop them out because that kind of like fuzzy, crushed up kind of lo-fi sound is really working. But you can't just have that. You need some kind of balls in there, and it just hasn't got it. I think I heard a guitar coming in. And these Japanese fight noises. I somehow got a sound bank of, I think it was called Japanese fight noises, and I guess it's all like karate, like kung fu film stuff. Nice panning on those, but they're not popping. They really could do with some saturation, would just really bring them out. The guitar sounds a bit weak as well. I think you could definitely drive that a lot harder. That bass really is overpowering. You could do some work to work that around the kick drum. But the elements are there, the arrangement's good.
It's so easy to give in. Just set it down, make him sick on the floor again.
Okay, so the vocal, I've now got a sort of radio filter, like quite a hard kind of filter on that. There's no lows, some of the highs are gone. It's quite SE, it's a bit uncompressed, so I think that definitely needs holding in place. But interestingly, with that filter in, it's no longer boomy. It actually sits a lot better in the mix, and I don't think it needs that throughout the whole track. That's quite extreme, but it does demonstrate quite well, actually, what I was saying about the vocal needing a lot of tidying up in the low end.
So easy to give in.
Synths are working really nicely.
Make him sick on
That
the floor again.
synth is sitting really nicely in the mix.
It's so easy to give in. Just set it down, make him sick on the floor again.
This is nice. Like, bit of work on that bass, getting some transient impact and some low end into that kick drum. And now the vocals are all over the place. And now that's working with the filter. But yeah, that bass is very boomy. I'd love to hear that guitar with a whole lot more drive on it. Also, the reverb is super muddy in that delay. Some EQ work on those effects returns. Could have been so much more daring with the distortion on that. It could really sing, and it would just give the whole track a bit more of an edge. But there you go. Actually, I kind of wish that I still had the project file for this. It is long gone. Well, for a start, the version of Reason that I had is not going to open on this machine. But yeah, I think actually, with access to all the individual parts, I could have a really good time mixing that track. Or I think the vocals definitely need re-recording. But there you go. Interesting experience re-listening to an old track like that. That's it for this week. If you'd like a feedback video like this one for one of your own tracks, you can follow the link in the description of this video. Otherwise, please do like and subscribe for more tips, tricks, resources and downloads from me at Moonshift Audio. Till next time.